All right, so welcome to another episode of Rosefellow's Podcast. My name is Mike Jager, co-founder, co-president of Rosefellow. Along with me here today, I have David Lima, our vice president of Leasing Development, and every other hat that he wears within the company, which are many. And to my right, Justin Efraim, president of Cateron Films. Justin has been with us from before Rosefellow, guiding us and kind of educating us with everything that has to do with marketing and branding. And that is the topic of today's podcast, marketing and branding. When
you started Rosefellow with Sam, I think we might have been one of the first people you met with.
You were, and I am so passionate about this topic, Justin and Dave. I don't even know if you know about this, but I was born in the promotional product industry. My dad owned a company in the textile business where we manufactured sport bags, patio umbrellas, and it was all about branding companies, from Labatt's to Coke to Pepsi. So I was taught from a young age that how important it is for companies to get their names out there and how important it was to brand. So I preached that. I remember going from business to business when I worked for my dad, 16, 17, 18 years old, and kind of, educating companies how important it was for them to get their name out there, how important it was for them to brand and market. So when we started Rosefellow, I took such enthusiasm with you, Justin and Mike, to really push Rosefellow out there. The little budget that we had, so much of it went into marketing and branding.
Yeah, and when I look at it and I think about that little budget that you had, it's amazing how far we were able to take that little budget at the time. And it wasn't little in the financial side. It was little in the fact that there was so little to work with too at the beginning. It was like, hey, it's a blank slate. We have to create everything as though nothing existed before. And Rosefellow had a couple things going for them. Or at the time, Mike and Sam, before Rosefellow was named, you had a couple things going for you. You had a lot of experience and you had a lot of energy. And the real big thing you had going for you guys, and this is what no one else had at the time, was the willingness to do things differently. You're like, hey, we're just going to put it out there. And I think what Rosefellow did really great at the beginning was they put out a great founder story. You really went out there and you communicated with people online. In the biggest audience in the world. You told them what you wanted to do. You told them how you were going to do it. You told them your goals, your aspirations, your dreams. And it's amazing how people just kind of wanted to help you make those dreams come true. It was a really strange thing.
I think another thing that helped us as well is that we weren't scared to make mistakes. We were okay to get in front of a camera and talk. And if we didn't say the right thing, that was okay. If we didn't exert the right message, that was okay. We were not, we never wanted to build a company that was protected by red tape. We said we want to put out a video, we want to put out some content, and if we don't say the right thing, that's fine.
When you started Rosefellow, and you said to me, the one thing I promise you is you will not deal with red tape with us. And I can tell you that 5 years later, you have kept that promise.
Amazing.
We have not had any red tape. We've had challenges, but no red tape.
Dave, coming from, you worked for private developers, you've worked with public institutions.
Yeah.
How do you see the difference working at Rosefellow now when it comes to the marketing and the branding of what we do?
So, you know what, I'm gonna answer that. I'm gonna start back from when it first started. So I was working, like you had mentioned, I was working at a public institution at the time when Rosefellow was in its birthplace. And the one thing that resonated with me at the time, and this is a ways back, is that it was really different the way that they were marketing it and the way the branding was and so on. But what I appreciated the most is that it was really genuine to who Mike and Sam were, right? And real estate, whether we are prepared to admit it or not, is not an industry that has evolved from branding perspective or marketing perspective very much, right? Everybody try and do things a bit differently or whatever, but it ends up being 4 quarters for a buck. And I remember when I first saw the first sign at the real estate forum, I was like, that's cool. That's different. You know what I mean? But it really looked like Mike and Sam's image. And I think the fact that it was really genuine to who they were is something that resonates in general. But the other thing is that I remember, and I look at the first hat that was created, and I look at the first postings and so on, because I've done it for fun. and it's evolved so much since then. And I think the coolest thing, when Mike and I and Sam met for the first time and the topic of marketing came up and so on, Mike was adamant that he's like, feel free to jump in and provide ideas. It was never, okay, we figured out our secret sauce and now we're just going to do this. It was always, this is where we are today, but we need to figure out where we're going tomorrow. And that was always something that I thought was really cool. So I'd say from the outside looking in, without question, it was doing things differently, the whole idea of, challenging the status quo and so on and so forth. It's so true. And you really feel it. And it's really cool at the end of the day. It really is cool. And it's fun that everybody in this office can come up with an idea and nobody's going to say, hey, you can't say that or you can't do that. No, this is how we do it or whatever. It really is a question of how do we build this ecosystem and show it to the world in a different way, and making sure that we're always leading the parade as opposed to following it.
What I appreciate, and sometimes when I get a little choked up, is when you'll call me and you'll say, hey, I had another company reached out to me and they said, hey, I want a brand like Rosefellow. That's flattering, because we don't consider ourselves experts at what we do. We lean to you for your opinion on what we can do better and different. But to hear others say, whatever they're doing, I want to do the same. And what's crazy is that people don't realize how much time we put into this.
Yeah.
It takes it takes a huge commitment to do what we do. It's not, we don't just plug in a camera and do a podcast every Friday. It's way more than that. There's way more hours put into that people have a hard time understanding.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of funny because you sort of said it before, the secret sauce. The one thing is that there is no secret sauce.
Exactly.
There is really no secret sauce. The things that you guys had, and I think a lot of companies don't understand this, is that we started with characters. You and Sam were characters, and we were able to build stories around you and Sam. Because you were willing, you were out there, you were unique, you were different. We were able to establish Rosefellow's brand before we were able to establish a project. Which was really cool, because most companies would have been like, we have a deal on the table, let's make a business. You're like, we're going to make a business and find a deal.
Yeah.
And then, 26 deals later, we're talking here today. But it really started with ideas and willingness and energy. You just kept investing yourselves into it. And we do get a lot of calls. A lot of people like, we want the Rosefellow treatment. And my answer is very simple to them. I said, okay. And they asked me one question: what's it going to cost? And I could say it costs as much or as little as you want it to, because it doesn't matter. It's like the money is not the thing that makes the difference. You have to have that drive and that energy and that willingness to the commitment to it. And if you have that in any industry, you can do something.
And it's challenging, because as we got busier with projects, with a larger team, it's easy to kind of stray away from what we originally promised ourselves, which is to always invest time in marketing and branding. And that's where I think, your involvement was so important to us, because that's a big ask I had of you, is that if ever you see that I kind of stray away from that, please pull me back in. And hold me accountable for what the promises I made to you and to ourselves and to our team, that we would not stop and let off the gas. And 5 years later, I think we're putting out more content today, being 100 times busier than we were.
Yeah.
But we have not taken time away from what's important to us, which is to keep the message going. To when anything bothers us, we're not just gonna share it amongst ourselves and hide behind closed doors. We're gonna voice our opinion on a podcast or online. So that was important to us to keep that going, and it's not easy.
No, it's not. It's really not. And I can speak. Look, I've been here for about 5 months or something like that. And I remember the first introductory video that we did, where Mike had announced that I was joining the team. I had a couple of my close friends tell me, you look nervous to a certain degree. And the reality is growth comes from coming out of your comfort zone. And I think that's something that we strive to do, is pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone with the intent of getting better. And I remember, I mentioned in that video, I said, I drank the Kool-Aid. And the truth is that part of drinking the Kool-Aid is all right, yeah, I'm not used to doing this, but I'm on the team. I'm all in, so let's go. Saddle up.
And to that example, I think it was Monday morning where I said, hey, Dave, we got a great topic to discuss this week. We're talking about marketing and branding. Love to have you on. I'm in. It didn't take a second for him to say I want in and I want to be part of that video. So it goes to show how it's part of our DNA.
The one thing that we've always done is we've always tried harder. Whether it's harder internally, we challenge ourselves, and we try harder to do it better than other people do. And whether you build a better building or you put out a better story, the idea is just to try harder, always try harder, keep trying, don't give up, don't take your foot off the gas, and just keep going. And that really comes into the core part of branding and marketing, because at the end of the day, branding and marketing serves a main purpose, and that's sales.
But I think another an important aspect when it comes to marketing and branding for people to, again, drink the Kool-Aid is to understand your own, and when I say your own, our company's core principles. What are they? And if you don't have a clear message internally of what they are, it's gonna be hard to sell that to anyone else. So if I were to split that up and talk about our core principles, the first one that comes to mind is transparency. That is huge for us, and I think that's one of the initial topics we talk about when we bring anybody in. I think our first discussion with you, David, when we sat down together to see if you had an interest to join Rosefellow, was we made that mention that we are always going to be transparent with everybody within the company. We don't hold anything close to our chest. We're a team, and when we say a team, it's everybody from head of sales to our CEO to our receptionist. Everyone knows about what's going on. There's no hidden secrets. We want to bounce ideas off everyone, and we love how that we've created that camaraderie internally. How we sit down Monday morning for our team meetings, and everybody's in the meeting. Technically, the office is shut down because everybody's in the boardroom. So transparency for me is key, which then follows into inclusiveness. Make everybody part of everything. And I remember we said it in one of the meetings with David, where we said, David, there may be a broker out there or a client who's going to call me instead of calling you. And it's okay if he likes me better. Or it's okay if I start off a call with a broker and he stops calling me because he calls you. We're all acting as a team. We're not fighting for a percentage or for a deal. We're fighting for the same thing, to make that client feel that he is the most important client in the city or in this province or in this country, and we want to do everything we can to appease them. And then following that, I think of respect.
Oh, 1,000%.
Amongst ourselves, amongst our trades. It is so, and when I think respect to the trades, I get shivers thinking about it. How many times I hear these horror stories of brokers who tell us that they brought a deal to a landlord, they got the deal done, and they're chasing a commission.
Yeah.
That's a lack of respect.
I agree.
I don't care who you are. I don't care how important you think you are as a landlord. If you cannot pay your broker the moment that deal's done, you are weak. And that is so important to us. I remember there's deals we've done at 10 in the morning where, I won't mention his name, but the broker called us at 4 that afternoon. He said, he goes, guys, there's a check on my desk. I haven't opened it yet. Is that my commission? And we said, it is. We had someone deliver it to your office. He goes, I've never, in my 25 years as being a broker, never had a commission check brought to me the same day, delivered by you at your expense. And the message was clear. It is because of you we're sitting down with this client. It is because of you, and this is the least we can do to thank you.
But that comes down to your values. That's just a value system. That's all it is. These are core values, and even though you make an example of it, it doesn't, like, there's probably many examples that are similar. The thing is that's who you are, and it's not going to change. That's the DNA of this company. And that's the foundation on which Rosefellow is built, is to treat everyone with tons of respect and appreciation. And as someone who's been a supplier to you guys since day one, I've always felt appreciated. Like, even if the work isn't the best work, or even if, like, we fell short on something, it's never you're done, we don't respect you. It's always we're going to get it where it needs to go. There's always that collective attitude of nobody fails, everyone just, sometimes it takes more time, but you'll always get something to the finish line. But that goes for the way you treat people. It's like, I'm sure you've worked with brokers, and there's been huge challenges, and at the end of the day, it got to the finish line, but it's probably because Rosefellow carried it there. You refuse to quit. You don't give up on people. You bring the best out in everybody, and that's a value. I think one of Rosefellow's strongest values, and maybe this is something you overlook because you're so in the juice, is that you will work to bring out everyone's potential. You'll see their strengths and work with their strengths.
Well, I totally agree, and I think actions speak louder than words, right? So we can talk about branding, we can talk about marketing and all that stuff, and the reality is, and I'm sure you'll all agree, it takes a long time to build your reputation and your brand, and it takes a lot less time to break it, to kill it. You know what I mean? If I use the example of restaurants, I worked a long time in restaurants as a young one, and I learned a lot from it. And you'll notice that somebody who goes to a restaurant has a great experience will oftentimes tell a couple of people. Somebody who goes and has a bad experience, they'll tell 10. Yeah. So at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. We need to be consistent with our branding. We need to be consistent. We have to practice what we preach, and that's something that I welcome. I'll tell a broker, or I'll tell a client, call my bluff. Just give me the shot. Let us go for it. And at the end of the day, just got to keep hitting the ball out of the park consistently. And I think the other thing that I really enjoy here, even since I've been at Rosefellow, the marketing and branding is continuing to evolve.
And one of the things that make it so strange, right, is that Rosefellow is an industry that would be considered very unsexy to most people. Unless you're in it and you realize how much there is at stake all the time. The stakes are really high in this industry and what you do. But as far as real estate is concerned, the industrial, the warehousing side is, I would say, in the popular culture's view, is the least sexy part. So marketing Rosefellow as the product you create is one of the most challenging things that I've ever done, because I still find it hard to make warehouses sexy, and I find it hard to make them fun, and I find it hard. But hard doesn't mean impossible, and we knew that from day one, because Rosefellow was very much at day one. There was two paths that you guys wanted to go down. There was residential and there was industrial. I never heard anything about office buildings. I never heard anything about retail or anything like that. That was never part of the conversation. I think you always said, if a great opportunity comes along, we'll be open to it, but it's not the direction. And then sort of time came and you went down both paths, and your first project was residential. Probably the greatest learning experience of your life. And to make that building successful, you have to have, let's say, 250 tenants in there paying rent every month.
Absolutely.
For that building to be considered to successful, you'd have to have, a 95% occupancy rate? But industrial, you can have one tenant in a project, which means it's a very different game. Mm-hmm. And so you have a very small market that is out there. It's, maybe there's in the province of Quebec, 8,000 potential companies that will require the warehousing that you build, maybe. But the nice thing is you can find that one tenant, and it can change the game for you.
And the type of warehouses that we put out there are Class A. They are not the cheapest. By far, they're the most expensive warehouses on the market, which again brings that, we'll call that fictitious number of 8,000 companies down to maybe 2,000 potential clients. So it is a challenge when you market these different properties. Absolutely. And before we go on to our next topic, I think the last thing that comes to mind when I think of values is the word fun. It was important to us to always have a lot of fun in what we do, and it resonates within our company. I don't know how many text messages I got from you, David, and others within our company during the construction holidays of our team saying, I can't wait to get back in the office. Yeah. I've been at other places that I worked at in my past, and people couldn't wait to get away. People were dreading that day back. But in this office, again, not because it's our company, but I just feel that people enjoy coming in the morning. People come in with smiles. The friendships we've created internally here. I mean, we hang out beyond the office, the office walls and 9 to 5, and it's fun. It's important to us that we say it over and over again, but it's true. We are a family. This is not just a team of 18 people working together. This is a team. This is a family of 18.
So let me ask you something. If you were to sort of convey this message, like all these things that you've built, which is very admirable, right? Like, to someone else who's outside, from the outside world, who wants to build their own business, their own real estate company, what would you tell them? Like, what would you tell them the key to that is? Like, what would you, hey, you want to start, you're a blank slate, go ahead.
First of all, be true to yourself.
Get out of my brain.
Go ahead.
No, that was no, you just, that's exactly what first thing popped into my head.
You know, when we did those first videos, it wasn't about being someone who we are not. People sometimes laugh at us and they said, well, you don't really wear the part, you know, guys in real estate, especially in development, in the type of asset class that you do, or should be in suits and ties. And that's not who we are. And you know, we walked into presentations with big corporate clients and you know, we were up against our other competitors who walked in before us and they were in their suits and ties and we come in t-shirts. Sam would come in with a cap and they'd be like, oh, you guys forget to dress up? And half an hour into the meeting, they said, you know what, we feel good about you guys. Yeah. Because you are who you say you are. We feel that it's true, that it's not fake. And it's won us the opportunity to have some very important clients in our portfolio, to be able to win some incredible sites. You have to be true to yourself. Do not try to be someone else. If you're trying to get into a business that just seems to have a great bottom line, but you're not passionate for, walk away. Because if you're just doing it for the money, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. I love what I do. I'm so passionate about what I do, and it's you know, I love the city, but I will do real estate in any part of the world. Because it is about the process. It is about the teams that we build. It is about the people we work with. I love every aspect of it, and I get shivers again just talking about real estate. I love it. I love the team we have. I'm so proud of you know, what we've been able to put together in under 5 years. That's what's incredible. So, you know, to answer your question, be true to yourself.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add a couple of things as it relates to that, and I think that when you're true to yourself, that it resonates even more. You know, Mike referenced, you know, walking into a boardroom with tattoos and all that kind of stuff, and I have to tell you, for anybody who's wondering, I don't have any tattoos.
Not yet.
That's yeah, that's what they say. The amount of people when I joined Rosefellow that said, so when you're getting your first sleeve and all that kind of stuff, like the first 5, 6, I'll call it a dozen times, I giggled. After a while, it's like, guys, is this really what you're thinking about? Is it, like, who cares, you know? The other thing I'll say is that because we are true to ourselves, I've had people come up to me and say, I saw your podcast and I really like watching them. People I've never met, you know, at real estate functions and so on and so forth. And I think that's cool. And I'll take it even further. And I didn't tell you this yet because I didn't have the chance, but last night, and this to me is very telling, I have a 10 and a 7-year-old who have both met Mike. They didn't meet Sam in person, but they see our videos, they watch. I don't really think they care what daddy does. Like, I think they're like, so what do you do? Okay, next. But, you know, they saw Mike and they were like, oh my God, big eyes. So we were invited to a wedding, and it's a black tie event and the kids are coming. So we ordered these little suits online and whatever, and they came in yesterday, and then the punchline is coming. So they tried them on. And out of nowhere, they're looking at themselves in the mirror, giggling because they're wearing suits and ties for the first time. And they looked at each other, and my oldest said, okay, I'm Mike. And my youngest said, I'm Sam. Swear to God. Swear to God.
I love that.
Swear to God. That, for me, is a big win. Somebody's done something right. Because they're watching it, and they think it's awesome. And they're watching this, and they don't know real estate. They don't understand what we do on a daily basis. My oldest is starting to ask questions, but just the fact that we're enjoying ourselves, that you could tell that we actually like each other, you know, it resonates even to the younger generation, and I think that's amazing.
And it's a message that actually I try to convey over to my kids. Sienna's 17, Blake is 13. Is just find what it is you love in life, and that's what you got to do. You know, my oldest knows, you know, she wants to be a doctor and she's focusing on that. My young one, you know, he wants to be a basketball player. God bless him. You know, just find what it is you want to do in life and follow your dream. Don't do it for the money. Don't look at you know, what salaries do people make and that's what I'm going to do for a living. You will fail. You may not fail financially, but you will fail emotionally. I know so many people who have so much wealth who are incredibly miserable, who turn to alcohol and drugs because they can't live with themselves. And it's not about the money. It is not, and you can tell those who are the most successful in life, not necessarily the richest people in the world, are the ones that are the happiest. And that's the message I convey to my kids. Just find something that you're passionate about and follow that dream. Because what I do, and I tell them, Daddy does not have a job. He does what he loves to do. And if you can find that in life, then your life is complete.
Yeah. So, and I think that sort of wraps up the idea of what branding really is. Branding comes down to all these values and all these like these fundamentals and creating an image and a story. The story is so important. And to get people and to get buy-in, and that's what branding really is all about. It's the foundation which most businesses are built upon.
So, being an expert in the industry, Justin, maybe you can explain to our audience what the difference is between branding and marketing.
Okay, I think I can try and do that. Branding to me are the fundamentals. It's the image. It's the loyalty. It's the story you tell.
Values.
It's the values. It's the image you create. It's the connection you make with people. It's the fundamentals of good. It's the foundational part of good marketing. If your branding is good, then your marketing can be great. Marketing is the vehicle. It's the way in which you use to sort of communicate your product, your service, your brand. And ultimately, if you have sort of really foundational good branding and solid marketing, the idea of both of those is to generate sales. Absolutely. Right? So like the cycle is like, it kind of ends at the sale. So everything we do on the branding, the marketing side, even though it's passionate, it's fun, it's never about the money. It still has to make sales because no business. So what do they say? 90% of business can solve their problems just through sales. Mm-hmm. Right? Every business that's suffering, 90% of them can solve the problem through sales.
And it's what's amazing to me how, when there is a downturn in the market or there are tough times in any business, a lot of times the first place that companies will cut is their marketing and branding budgets. And I remember during COVID, we doubled down on marketing and branding.
Even tripled down, I think. I don't think you doubled down. I think you more than doubled. I think you were like, and even when we couldn't get together, you're like, let's do it from our phones. Let's just push it any way we can. Let's do it from home. Let's do it whatever we can. And you were right. I mean, the attitude was right. Because the best time to market is not when you're struggling, it's when you're doing well. And a lot of companies look at it like, we're doing well, we don't need to market. And that is, I think, the fundamental stone, because I don't care what business you're in, there's always going to be rainy days. And the rainy days are when things are hard to do, right? When you're doing well and things are growing, and that's when you should be putting your marketing in, because that will mitigate the rainy days. That will make the rain go away quicker. All the channels now are free to use, right? Like all the major communication channels are free. You don't have to pay to advertise on TV. You can post on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. It's all free to post on. There's no one charging you a penny to do it.
Yeah.
So now it's just about creation and execution. And traditional ways of doing things have never been Rosefellow's way. Keeping up with tradition has not been your thing. The only tradition you have here is to, basically fuck the status quo.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. I was just looking down at my bottle here of water, and I remember this one. Oh yeah. Fuck status quo. I mean, we've embedded this in our marketing, but the term is it resonates with everything we do. We try to be different. The way we do, we market a property. I can't wait for you to see that video that you did.
I know you won't let me see it.
I saw the unedited version. I can't wait for our audience to see what you've done with the team at Catarrant Films. It's incredible how we're going to market a property that's so different and unique from everybody else. And again, it's just about being, thinking outside of the box and thinking, what can we do that no one has done before? And I think that becomes a challenge sometimes with us where, we think to ourselves, what can we do to improve our marketing and branding?
Yeah, and then you look at it like you have the traditional channels, right? What can you do?
Yeah.
And we do the traditional stuff all right. We're okay with the traditional stuff. We don't do things like television advertising, and we don't do things like Like we really don't even run pay-per-click campaigns anymore. We kind of stopped doing that because we want to see what the organic would do.
Well, I'm so happy you brought that up. There's I remember asking you a couple years ago. I said, I don't understand how this company has 25,000 members, whatever it's called, on LinkedIn. They're in our industry, but they don't really do any marketing. And you said they buy their audience. I didn't even understand that. I didn't even know that was an option to buy. And I said, I absolutely never, ever want to do this. I don't want to have to pay for anyone. If someone wants to follow us, it's because they choose to follow us. We're not going to be paying for an audience just to show captive people that we have. Oh, look, we have 25 or 50 or 100,000 people following Rosefellow. No. If we have 100,000 people following Rosefellow, it's because they choose. Those 100,000 people choose to listen in and to watch us. I could not believe people do that.
And your numbers grow steadily.
Yeah.
Because of that, your numbers don't grow in the thousands and tens of thousands. They grow in the hundreds increments, but they're constantly growing at 100. And the engagement you're getting, the amount of feedback you get, the amount of leads that come into the company. Rosefellow has a brand and a name now. Within your industry, people resent that Rosefellow is doing so much more. And it's not because you're better than them. It's because you're willing to do it.
Yeah.
It's really just like, I'm willing to do it better.
But you know what? You talk about, you're absolutely right. And I can say, because look, I'm the last one of the last ones to arrive at Rosefellow. So I've been on that other side where I've been in the room where people are, quote unquote, being resentful. But I find those people today are trying to do the stuff that we're doing because they see that it works. So what's interesting about that is, first of all, I always have a good laugh at that, but the status quo has evolved, right? The whole idea of doing podcasts and all that kind of thing was foreign in real estate. And now all of a sudden you're seeing more and more people doing it. Why? Because they're seeing Rosefellow doing it and doing it well. So they're saying, well, I need to piggyback on that because it's becoming the status quo. So to bring it back to what Mike was saying earlier, what we're doing with our marketing and branding has to continue to evolve. Why? Because we fucked the status quo. Yeah. And now the status quo is changed, and now we have to take it to another level. And then on top of that, what I think is also really cool is that within the brand of Rosefellow, Mike, I'm sure you'll agree with me, how long did it take to build your personal brand before Rosefellow? How long did it take for your brand to develop?
It's an interesting question because I just, when we started Rosefellow, I put my guard down. I didn't try to be someone I was not. So my personal brand is who I am. What you see is what you get. And the message I would try to convey is that I would be clear and direct. I would not beat around the bush with clients. I would be engaging. I think that's always the message I wanted people to understand about me, that if you call, that if you email me, I will get back to you. May take me a day, may take me two, but I will always get back to you. I could not stand the fact that I work in other places and people say I tried to call your boss and it took a week or 2 weeks or a month for them to get back to me. Why? All this is done so people can call us. Yeah. So we can answer the phone and respond to their request, and to not pick up the phone or call back, that's insulting.
Why are you trying to bring us business?
So I think the message I've always wanted to people to understand about me is that I would be direct. I'd be engaging and I would be there to take their calls and to listen. The answer may not be what they want to hear. Not every property that's presented to us we're going to jump on and take, but I'll give them the time of day to tell them why, and I'll be appreciative for the call. And I've had calls where the client said, "Listen, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go with you because of timing, because of price, whatever it is," and that's fine. I'm not going to sit there and kick and scream like a spoiled child. Thank you for giving me for calling me and letting me know, and hopefully we'll get the next one.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your actual question, David, because
I thought I did.
No. Mike's been investing in his personal brand since I've known him.
Yeah.
And I think we met in 2015 or 2016. I want to say 2016 we met officially. I remember in 2017, the Montreal Real Estate Forum, we put together that presentation that is still spoken about to this day.
I remember it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that was your breakout. Like, I look at that as the point in your life where you took charge of this presentation with us. You brought us on board. You engaged us and said we had to do something spectacular.
So you know what?
And that was Mike's breaking point, I think.
So I'm going to add to that. So when Mike and I knew each other, both in our former lives or whatever it was always a thing when the real estate forum would come and you know that Mike would hit the stage. It was always, what suit's he going to wear? Right? Yeah. Always looked sharp. And same thing for Sam. I mean, obviously he was a little less, you were very much with the video, and what's it called, on the presentations and so on and so forth. Sam was as well dressed, more corporate and so on and so forth. And then I remember when I saw him for the first time when Rosefellow was started, and I got a bit of a weird memory, okay? You had a blue polo on, right? But it was no suit, you were you could see the tats and whatever it is. I remember we gave each other a high five and I looked at him and I just said, good for you, man. You know what I mean? Like
living your best life.
And coming from the public side, I used to go to work every day in a suit. And I used to tell my colleagues, and I'm a bit like Sam in the sense that I'm a bit of a comic nerd. And I said, you guys see me every day, I'm Bruce Wayne. But when I go home, I'm Batman. You know what I mean? And what's nice here is that we're all Batman.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I like that.
No, I think that is really the fundamentals here. It's like really just it comes back to this brand ideas. Everything we do comes back to this fundamental of be true to yourself, be respectful. And it's always moving forward. And the one thing that you guys try everything. Like there's nothing you're not going to try. Even if it's a bad idea, you're still try it to see if it does something. And I love that because it allows everyone to experiment, to be themselves.
And people respect it too, by the way, more and more.
So in terms of what marketing we've done, what do you think is the most meaningful and impactful marketing you have done or Rosefellow has done or collectively if there's one thing that stands out in your mind as like groundbreaking or...
I think it's just letting people know who the people are within the company. In our industry, all you see when it comes to marketing and branding is the property. Here's a new property. It's in this sector. Here's how much space you have available. Please call us if you're looking to rent. It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
And you'll often ask the question, who owns that company? Who's behind that brand? For us, it was important for people to get to know us before they get to know the product. We want people to call us before they even know what we have as a property and say, hey, I have a client that's looking for a site in Calgary. Do you have anything there? That's what we want. We want to get the call without them knowing if we have it or if we don't have it. And that's why we're expanding into the United States, because we believe that this idea we have and the way we do things will resonate well beyond our borders.
I think it can work. I think this attitude is so flexible and almost like it's adaptive, right? Like it's like the way that you do things, it's always adapting, it's always changing. So there's pretty much nowhere you can't go it's an open society and put these values on the table and not be appreciated for them.
And I think if there's one thing that I don't think it's one necessary like kind of marketing initiative or whatever it is, but I do think what's interesting about our brand is that our brand has no boundaries. And again, I'm going to refer to my previous life. It's like, okay, if you want to come work here, this is how we behave, this is how we dress, this is how we speak, this is how we do it, right? And what's nice about coming to Rosefellow is that conversation is about values. It's not necessarily, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, unless nobody's told me, there is no dress code. I wear this t-shirt because it's what I want to wear. And it's what I wear on the weekend. It's, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a time and place where maybe you have to dress a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, our brand has no boundaries. And I do think that's something that resonates with others because the average person is very much in a box, right? We're all kind of like compartmentalized. We have to fit into society a certain way and so on and so forth. And it's a breath of fresh air to come to work and be able to be yourself and really be yourself as long as you meet the values. The values is what matters, right? And we can reiterate what those are, but we know what those are. And every single person in here, everybody, whatever you do, they meet those values. And I think that's the brand.
We put more emphasis on the team, on the company culture than anything else. You got to be able to mesh with everyone else if you want to work at Rosefellow. And you got to love what you do. And the best example I can give is a recent one. We had hired someone to be called an executive assistant. And we sat down with this person a couple days ago and asked them, it's been a couple of weeks. How do you like what you're doing? How do you like the company? Is there anything we can do to improve? And the response was, you're not utilizing me to the best of my abilities. I'm like, okay. Is there something else that you want to do? And she's like, I like development. I'd like to get into that. And we're pivoting her role. We're changing where she's going to be sitting within the company to be closer to the development team. Because if the person has heart, if the person is passionate, and the person can get along with everyone else within the company, then why not change that role? We've always been flexible that way. If you're good as a person, we will find the perfect job for you to do, because we want you to be happy and we want you to want to do what you do. So we're very, and the smile on her face was very touching. So that's who we are as a company.
Yeah, I know it's true. I've seen it for years. I've seen it happen for years. I've seen you bring people in, and I've seen them evolve into what they're supposed to be, not to what they were, not to the role, but to the role they were meant to take.
And I'm a perfect example of that as well. I remember sitting with Mike and Sam. For those who don't know, the majority of my experience is on the office side, and I was very transparent with Mike and Sam, and I said, I know what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, and I referenced this when I did my first video, I do think that I align myself with a couple of superstars. These guys know that what they're doing inside and out, and the last thing I want to do is come and underwhelm. You know what I mean? And the response that I got was awesome. Mike and Sam told me, said, no, it's you. Like it's who you are. The rest, easy peasy. It's you. We want you. You're gonna fit in. You're our person that we feel can really speak our language. That I'll go into a room. I'm not gonna make these guys ashamed. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make them proud. And that's something that I was like, all right, man. I'm all in. Now I bleed pink.
Values.
I bleed pink now.
Yeah, it's all core values. It all comes down to that. But now that we've talked about who we are, now it's like, what are we gonna do? And I think that's really important to discuss and think about. Almost brainstorm it, because we have little things that we're working on all the time. But what's the big goal? The goal is expansion. Is it to get a bigger team, or is it to get bigger footprint, or is it to get more opportunities?
I'm one of the what comes to mind is market leadership. We want to be the best. We want to be known as the best at what we do. A majority of our business is industrial development. We want people to think that these guys are the best at what they do. There is no one better. So I'd say that's right up there. We want to keep innovating.
Yeah. What I always think about is thought leadership. Because I always say to myself, it's great to be the best, but the one who leads the way people think, the way that the thought leadership that Rosefellow takes and the potential it has. And I always said, even at day one when we're starting, we have to make Rosefellow thought leaders. And it's one thing to be the best, but it's another thing to be the thought leader, meaning the way that you think is the way that other people are going to start thinking about this industry. And we've seen it happen on a small scale, whereas Rosefellow does this, and everyone just sort of you see a bunch of your competitors starting to be like, we have to do the same to keep up. And that thought leadership, it's the way you think. So I always look at thought leadership as the fundamental thing of Rosefellow that does and how we do things differently. And that's an opportunity that you've created for me too, right? Is to help for our company, for Catamaran Films, to help Rosefellow be thought leaders, to not only do the best marketing, but think about the best marketing, think about the best branding, think about the best opportunities, and to get other people to think the way that you think, not through tactics, but through genuine leadership. And I look at that and I always say to myself, you want to be the best, you want to be the leader. I think the ultimate goal is to be the thought leader. Is that's where you're going to cement your legacy for life. And legacy is a tangible thing. It's not really that big a deal. The legacy we leave is all about perspective, right? The way one person sees it versus another is totally different. There are dictators that have great legacies in some people's eyes and terribles in the other. So it's like, King, same thing. So it's legacy is not as important as thought leadership to me. And I really see Rosefellow as a thought leader. And I think that strategically looking forward, the main goal should always be thought leadership. How do we develop the things that we want to see the world be? And that's where, like, I think Catamount Films has been really helpful, is because a lot of the times I fight you. I'm like straight up the guy who fights you on things, and Sam, and it's not because I think you're wrong or I'm right. I think it's because you said conflict sometimes gets the best result.
Absolutely.
And I'm not afraid of that, because the comfort that you created for us here, like for Catamount Films, is one where your role as a supplier to Rosefellow is never threatened.
Well, we don't hire yes men or women. That's as staff or as suppliers. I mean, Justin, if you were to agree with every idea I had, I'd be disappointed in your services. If every time I said, we should just do a post, that's a good idea. We should just do another marketing flyer for this product, that's a good idea. I wouldn't need you. The fact that you're always challenging us to do better, to do more, and that's with our team as well. I may have ideas on how we can, promote or market a property or lease a property, and David's going to challenge me on that. That's why we have teams. We've said it a million times since we started Rosefellow. If Sam and I are the smartest people in the room, we got a fucking problem. We hire the best because we want to be challenged every day with everything we do on every aspect of our business, and that's what makes us great. Is the people that surround us. We have, an idea comes to mind where there's this one architect, and he's probably one of the best at what he does for industrial development, and he's been doing it for decades. And he said, Mike, he goes, I love working with you guys because it's so refreshing. It's so different. I'm not just told, here's a site, make a plan, get back to me, and we're going to quote it. He goes, you bring us around a table with a white sheet of paper with a canvas, and you bring your contractors, your engineers, your heads of construction at Rosefellow. Your sales team sits around a table with us and says, guys, here's a site. What can we design together? He goes, and it's never been done. It's not being done, and it's so easy to do. Yeah. It's just letting everybody have a voice. And again, that's what makes us great. It's not the leadership group. It's everybody around us, from our team to our contractors to our architects to the marketing people we work with at Catamount. Everybody has a say, and that's what makes Rosefellow great. It's a collaborative effort.
And you always take your ego out of the equation.
I was going to say that.
You always take it out of the equation. It's like it's never. There's no even though like. You don't look the part of someone who has a very small ego, but when it comes to the work you do and the work that Rosefellow does, Sam, your egos are always like the last thing. You always put everything first. Everything else comes first. The project comes first. The people come first. And your ego is just sort of left at the door. And I love that, because there's a certain humility to that, to knowing that you can always be better. And there's always a way to do it better, but it's also about like leaving your ego at the doors, that you don't know best. Like you're happy being the dumbest person in the room, even though I can categorically say you are not, and I know this, and I can say that. And Sam, Sam is a freaky encyclopedia of knowledge and capabilities, but you guys only wish that you were the dumbest people in the room all the time.
But you know what I think, and it's one of the things that really attached me to the idea of coming to Rosefellow, is that, and I'm the same, by the way. Mike and Sam earned everything they have. Everything.
I think that's one of the things here, is there's very few people here that came from privilege, like certainly extreme privilege anyway. Like
there's a big difference when you tell somebody, that golden seat over there, it's yours as long as you don't fuck it up, as opposed to go earn it. It's not the same.
Yeah, it's true, and it's and everyone here has earned everything they have, and even your team. Like you've never hired someone because they're part of the connected world, or I've never seen that happen here. You hire people based on their experience, their attitudes, their
deal,
love of the sport.
Even like every deal that's been done has been earned. We fight for every deal. Every single deal we have competition. Every single deal people are now out to get us. They're like, nope, we don't want them to win. And you know what? Challenge accepted. Bring it on. We're here. We will stay up. While you're in bed sleeping, we will be up figuring out how to win. Because we know what it's like to lose.
Yeah, but that's a really good story, right? Like that's a story of hard work, effort. That's like the dream story. That's the Canadian dream, the American dream, the North American dream. Like, you can start with a little and make a lot. You can start with nothing and do great things. And that story is what people get on board. And that's when we started with Rosefellow, that was the story. It's like, hey, we don't have a lot right now. We're okay, but we don't have a lot. But we want to do good things. We want this. And you put it out there, and people got on board. And to this day, you have your fanfare. And they say you're not doing something right unless you have haters. So you're going to have haters, but that's okay. Haters are going to hate, and it's a good thing. It shows you that you're doing something right. And truth is like, the people that hate you pay a lot more attention to you.
If I'm going to quote the Joker, can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
There you go. Yeah. So let's think about ending this podcast. And I just want to think, like, what are some ideas you have for the future? Like, what are some goals, like personal, business goals? I'm just curious, David, like, what do you want to do in the next year? What's your hope? What are your hopes and dreams?
I've told this to Mike and Sam individually. I want them to turn around at a certain point. I'm not saying they're going to, but that's my objective. I want them to turn around and say the best thing we ever did was hire David. And that can be trickled down to, I want to lease the hell out of everything we have. I want to contribute to the team expanding to other markets. I want to fulfill our ambitions. I want to win. I want to, you name it, man.
Sam and I sat down 2 months ago and said we're really going to put an emphasis on the United States, and we've been traveling a lot. And very recently, him and I spoke, because we speak often about this expansion. It's important to us. Actually, Sam is in Florida right now, looking for new offices there. And we said the reason we can do this now is because we have the infrastructure in place here in Montreal that can't permit us to step away. And what we mean by that is, if Mike and Sam were not at the office for a week or for a month, this company could run on its own better than it could have a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because we have incredible people that work with us that run this company like if it was their own. So we're blessed to have you on, David. We don't need to be part of those meetings. We see the way you represent us to a client, the way you speak about us to your family. It's humbling. It's incredible. So that's one incredible thing we've been able to build as a company, is an incredible team where Sam and I can step away and focus on the next step, the next chapter for Rosefellow, which is the expansion to the United States. Also, one thing we always did behind closed doors was give back, and you taught us recently to say you gotta promote that. You gotta show others that you're more than just Mike and Sam, the real estate developers, that you do give. Don't be shy about it. And that's something you taught us recently. We've been doing more of that, where we've been promoting and marketing the fact that we give. The camp is the donation that we made to the camp. We built the sports complex, and the feeling that I got on the inside was incredible. Just to see those, it was the 600 kids that were there when we cut the ribbon on that camp. We want to be able to do more of that. So going back to what you said about giving back, that is huge. We want to do more of it. The more we can do as a company, as people, we will do so.
So I want to clarify. I never wanted you to promote your giving back. I wanted you to set an example. It was never about promoting it, because I don't believe in promotion of. I don't believe you should ever flaunt the good things you do. It's fundamentally against my personal values. But I think that in your industry, especially in the industry, there's a lot of business that happens, a lot of transactional value that gets created, and a lot of goodwill doesn't come from that. A lot of bad will comes out of that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And my attitude, and the reason I'm like, we have to push this, is because I wanted to set an example for others, that it doesn't have to be huge. It can be one little thing. It could be as simple as a gym or a donation to a hospital or to a small organization that, there are a lot of organizations that are quite small, where the impact of your donation is so big, versus organizations that are so big that the impact of your donation is small. And the thing that I liked about the camp that you guys did was that it fell in line with the marketing, with the branding of Rosefellow, and you saw a tangible, real thing that you did. And it sets an example. It's like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to build a wing of a hospital to do good.
So thank you, David. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks for having me. My first time on the Rosefellow Podcast, even though I've produced every one of them with our team.
I loved it. It's been a great session. I love the topic. Thanks to all those that listened in for listening, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights into the future of real estate.
Only if you want to.
Only if you want to. And see you next time. Thank you.